Hi there everyone, this is TatsuyaFujitora from OldCrewGaming, and today we're gonna start a new series on solo leveling the Rise. We're gonna get straight into it, and we're gonna talk about character creation, stat adding, skills, and artifacts. We'll start with Jinwoo today, and we'll go from there. New to the game, everybody's gonna be very confused about all the attributes and stats. We have strength, vitality, agility, intelligence, and perception. Each of them gives a specific bonus increase to the character itself. Some of them are rather useless, well, personally, I consider. Since this game is specifically intended for timed dungeons, or timed dungeon, I guess, since most of them are, let's see, within 165 seconds, within a 105, they're damage based, time based, and because of that, you gotta focus a lot on attack. Now, returning to our character, we'll start with the stats. Strength is the basic stat, gives you attack, and most of Jinwoo's skills are based on attack, so it's rather important for your attack to be as big as it can. Agility gives you crit rate, crit damage, vitality, HP and defense, and intelligence, well, cooldown, and MP. Now, the reason why I go a lot in strength and a couple in perception is because perception gives you increase in your minimum damage dealt, and strength gives you attack. Nice one, Jinwoo. Your skills being based on attack, the more you have strength, the better it'll be. Okay, then you'll say, what about the crit rate and the crit damage? Well, it's quite simple. You have artifacts, and your artifacts will give you crit rate, which will compensate for the lack in agility. So, basic stats for some Jinwoo, I would say you go like 75% strength, 25% perception, and you're golden. Weapons? Weapon-wise, we have a lot of them, but some of them prefer long-ranged, some of them go close, some of them go half and half. I would say if you start building the character, go for biggest damage output, because that's the whole point of the game itself, and go for weapons that give you permanent buffs, like uniques. As you can see, like the scythe, the second your HP drops below 70%, you get a 25% in critical rate increase, which is permanent. That is a buff that is like extraordinary. The second one would be the demonic sword. Increases critical hit damage by 12%, stacking up to 3 times, duration infinite. Of course, like, all the weapons have their ups and downs, but I would say that permanently buffing the character and keeping the stats is something that it's very hard to compete with. Okay, moving on to the skills of him. We have different types of skills with different types of activations on them. If we go for basic skills like this one, you see no specific icon on it. It just gives you the damage on it and the effects considering the runes that you have, because there will be skills that you don't have runes for, such as, I don't know, here. So once you unlock the runes, the skill will do extra damage and extra stats effects on it. So let's say double slash, fire rune will give you critical hit by 5%. the normal one increases damage to normal monsters, and so on. The skills themselves, as you can see, this one, it has like a little circle with rotation. That means that you can press this skill twice. So once you use the skill, you press it again, it casts the second time with different effects regarding to the runes that it has, such as this one. And then you'll have, let's see, on the weapon, yeah. Skills from the weapon, such as this, will mean that if you hold the button on the skill will do extra damage, extra attacks on it. So comparing to the previous one, you have to tap it. This type of icon shows you that you have to hold the button pressed. Okay, let's move back to his skills. Skill wise, it's very important to know that you have AoE skills, single target skills, and boss skills. AoE skills such as like Commander's Touch. It's a hard-hitting skill with the proper rune on it. 15-second cooldown, rather relatively okay, I would say. And it's like a black hole, it gathers the entire map into the center, explodes, and deals a lot of damage. And then you have single target skills, such as this one, which are focused more in doing damage to a single target, well, of course. Now, the armor break one is a very important skill to look at, since it is probably the best armor breaking skill in the game, well, given its name. It also gives you invincible status and increased defense. Regarding to the runes, you can choose one that increases the damage and you lose the invincibility on it. But I would say that this skill, especially in the beginning of the game, is one of the most important ones to have. It gives you the invincible status, it gives you the defense increase, and it also deals Almighty Break. Break is a skill's capacity to deal with an enemy's shield. Now, when you're gonna encounter bosses, you'll see that unlike normal mobs, they have shields on them. Once that shield is popped, they will take extra damage, and they will go into a state of daze in which they're incapacitated. So, if you're fighting a dungeon that has a boss, it will strongly be recommended that you have at least one break skill with you. Armor break being the most recommended. Of course, you could swap it out with Crushing Blow. Deals less break damage, but it has a counter attack, so even if you time it wrong, the second the boss attacks you, it gives you invincibility like the other one, but this time it has a more lenient side to it. Every single skill has elements in their runes, like you can see fire damage, wind damage, light, darkness, and so on. There we go, water. Out of the 5 elements, some bosses are resistant to some and take extra damage from other. So let's say you have a fire elemental boss, it's gonna take 50% less damage from fire, but it's gonna take 150% damage from water. So regarding on what you're fighting, it's quite good to change your skills, adapt to the situation. QTE skills are the skills that get triggered the second a special situation is activated. So let's say a boss tries to hit you, you dodge it in the last second, you activate Shadow Step. It immediately moves behind the boss and stabs him in the back, decreases his defense and everything. Collapse, as you see, inflicts airborne to the enemies, but only usable when the target is knocked down. And Death is exactly the opposite. The target must be airborne and it knocks him down. You have your ultimate skills. I would recommend you use Mutilate instead of Obliteration because of the higher damage percentage. This skill charges during the fight. You can cast it. It has a very long cooldown, but it deals a lot of damage, so it can take you out of like very tough spots. Personally, I would say normal dungeon, story modes and everything, you should always have like one AoE skill, one single target skill with a break. If you fight bosses, you could always use two skills of single target, one with a break, one with a high damage. As you can see, Wild Strike does 758 and it also does 45% increase to bosses and elite monsters. So it's a very good skill on single target bosses. But I would rather say that the armor break is something that you should stick with until you're comfortable with your character, be able to dodge everything that comes your way and actually get a feel to the game. Moving on to the artifacts, we're gonna have armors and accessories and everything. They're called artifacts, and if you place them in sets, they give you extra passives. If you do not know or don't want to choose a build that is specific, you can always go like change artifact, enhance, no, what was it anyways? Oh, equip. No, there we go, artifacts here. There we go. So artifacts, you can set them by sets. You can set them by attack. Let's say you have a character that needs attack, you can set it like this. We'll show you all the items that have attack and attack percentage. It's easier than just looking at every single one of them and separately. Now, when building the character, let's see if I can find. Okay. So, when building the character itself, it's very important to focus on his skills. Since we're talking about Jinwoo today, he is scaling with attack because, well, all of his skills deal damage and his weapons based on attack. So let's see. Damage on Jinwoo's attack. Damage on Jinwoo's attack, dark elemental damage, and they're all on his attack, including his personal skills, which we saw before. They're all based on Jinwoo's attack, well, except for armor break, which is attack and defense, but this is like the only exception to the rule. So when building artifacts, it's important to give him as much attack as possible so his skill deal the adequate amount of damage. We'll always be looking for attack, additional attack, and crit rate. Well, crit rate because we do not add points to agility as we talked before. That is where we're gonna get our basic crit rate, and it will increase our overall crit rate right here. Once it goes over 50%, it's capped, so it's gonna be irrelevant. And since we have the scythe and enough crit rate from the artifacts, nothing more is gonna be needed. Well, of course, if you have 40%, you could have used something else, but that is like up to you, I guess. You can go for damage increase, or if you feel too weak, you can go for an extra defense or HP, but I would say stick to attack as much as possible. So if you get like an item with attack percentage and 2 pluses on it, it's gonna be perfect. As we can see, attack, attack, attack as much as possible. Critical damage would be a focus on the boots, very important. Gloves, additional attack. The chest piece will always give you additional defense no matter what chest piece you have. Helmet, additional defense, but it can also give you HP or attack. So if you get a helm with attack, you can focus on that. Well, of course, if you get attack as secondary, as I got it right here, and 2 pluses in it, is more than enough to compensate for the lack of attack in the main stat. Now, accessory wise, they each have some specifics, like earrings will always give you additional MP. No matter what happens, you'll always get additional MP. So you want to get additional stats such as additional attack and attack on them. All accessories don't give you crit rate, but instead accessories will give you crit damage. Not mine apparently, because I wasn't lucky enough. So the main focus on accessories for Jinwoo would be attack, additional attack, crit damage. Exception being the bracelet, which it will always have an elemental damage on it. You can see water damage, light damage, wind, etc. Now, depending on the weapon that you have, or do you plan on using, you're gonna focus that bracelet on that type of attack. So since I'm using dark on both of them, my bracelet will always be dark damage first. Additional attack, and attack if I get it. Attack again, additional attack and attack, so yeah. We're going to check our teams. It's nice to have like a good rotation on them. So let's say he's darkness, you're gonna have water, fire, wind. Just try and have all the elements, because you're gonna end up in situations in which you're gonna have to fight water resisting bosses, and if you have free water elemental damage in your team, you're not gonna cause damage to that no matter what you do. And that's about Sun Jinwoo, I guess, today. We'll see you next time where we'll talk about different characters. Starting with Seo, Jiwoo, the new Alicia branch, Emma Laurent, Woo Jin-chul, and even the Silvermane. Catch you all in a bit and have a great day.